Lower thirds keep disappearing.
Welcome to the Savage Worlds GM podcast on air. I'm your host, Jared Savage Daddy Gunning. This episode brought to you by Roll20.net, the world's largest virtual tabletop. Check them out today at Roll20.net. Follow the show on Facebook, SWGM Podcast. Follow us on Twitter, SWGM Podcast. Check out the YouTube channel at SWGM Podcast. And then go subscribe at YouTube or at iTunes, damn it, at Savage Worlds Game Master Podcast. So tonight, due to a recent post on the Google Plus communities about bennies, what are they good for? We're going to have a discussion tonight's episode, Bennygate and Other Chicanery. Here to join us and talk about the topic, Dave, the rules baby Scott.
Greetings and citations.
Dustin, the intern.
Well, hello, everyone.
Some call him Jib.
Bennies! Ha! Good God, y'all.
And returning our reigning smart ass and resident smart ass, Scott W., the Savage cheerleader, a.k.a. Disembowel.
Published bitches.
So if you're watching the live stream, you can go ahead and comment. Dave and or Dustin will be monitoring that, and we'll be responding to those questions and comments. So let's go ahead and just dive in here with both feet. Talk about Bennygate. I don't want to. The last thing I want to do is start on a shit dropping rant against our friend Jamie Pearson,
our nemesis.
But seriously, Jamie, God damn it, really? So
no, I just want to make it very clear. We did actually invite Jamie on the show. He's actually got a regular Thursday night game that he couldn't postpone. So he's well aware that we're talking about this tonight, and he understands that he's likely going to take a few lumps since he's not here to put his 2 bits in.
So he's moved on from the immersion debacle, and is now questioning one of the core mechanics of Savage Worlds, being the Benny. So let's talk about we're summarizing, of course, the blog post. If you want to, you can go check it out. There's a link in the G Plus community. I think Clit was one of the first responders to it. Go ahead and check it out. But reading the blog post, so Jamie's conceit and argument is it's an I win button. Oh, you don't like what you got? Roll it again. Oh, you guys one-shotted my dragon, my big bad. The first round. Oh, nope, I'm going to soak that shit. Ha ha, it never happened. And his feeling, his general malaise is that bennies make it impossible to be a Guy Gaxi and Dick GM, is what I'm taking away from it. That they somehow dilute the game, or they somehow reinforce this millennial spoiled player that, I failures are fun. I don't like to lose. I got bennies. I just do bennies. Best bit of bennies. How
the fuck can I make a notice roll for you if you get a benny?
Since Scotty's been away for a while, I'm gonna let him go first.
No, go ahead. I just had to make the smart ass quip about what it really comes down to. Okay. I can make fucking secret rolls.
Okay. The concept that I think Jamie is missing here is the concept of an economy.
Yes.
Where you do things and you get paid for them, and then you pay to get things that you want. Okay? Because that's how an economy works. And that's what an economy in a game does. And in Savage Worlds, the economy is bennies. You do things like, play your hindrances. I'm just spitballing here. Then you get bennies for that, so that you can reject the GM's reality and substitute your own. That's really what it comes down to. And that is
let's be fair.
Missing.
Even if you do that, you still have to succeed on the roll.
Right.
And, I mean, let's be honest, even with Alon, that's still not guaranteed.
No. Well, and that's probably part of the biggest problem, right, when you read the blog post, because he pulls out the re-rolling of a roll, and then the one that you hear a lot about from other folks, too, is the I tell you, you take 3 wounds, and all of a sudden now those wounds vanish. The problem is the matter of perception of how Savage Worlds rolls work is People still come into it like it's fucking Dungeons and Dragons, and that all this shit is happening in real time, and you really can't do it that way. You need to say, here's what's going to happen. Do you want to Benny that? Here's what's about to happen. You're about to be hit in the fucking face. Your lockpick is about, you can feel the tension. You're about to snap inside the lock. What do you want to do? Right? You give them those opportunities, and for the damage, it's the same shit. Like, here's what's happening. This is going to fucking hurt. And you allow them the opportunity. And then, like, you know, we've always talked about, and Dave has always said, is that you wait till all the fucking rolling is done, and then the narration comes, not before or in the middle.
Right.
Well, I think
it's not a get out of jail free card. It's not a. It's an opportunity to try to alter the reality that's about to happen.
Which is one of the things that a lot of our folks on the Google, sorry, on the YouTube right now are bringing up. Alex, Roos, they're bringing up that 5e has inspiration, and other systems are now bringing in pass-fail mechanics post Savage Worlds.
Yeah.
Well, I think too. Here's one of the things I think is overlooked as well. Bennies are there as a metagame mechanic. They're basically a prophylactic against bad fucking dice rolls.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, we've all been the thing where, wait, I've got a D12 fighting and I can't hit a fucking goblin?
Right, exactly.
Are you fucking kidding me? No. Here's a Benny. I'm rolling that shit again.
I think that's half of it. I think the other half is, you're fucking kidding me. That goddamn goblin just killed me in one hit at Legendary?
Right.
The fuck? And here's my Benny to soak, because the fuck that shit. I'm not losing a year-long character to your fucking mook that's not even supposed to have been a challenge to the party, but because Savage Worlds happened all over me, I better have that Benny shield sitting in front of me for that one necessary soak roll to keep from catching a case of the dead.
Or for that moment when you just really, really need that thing to happen. You just really, really don't want to not persuade the Duke to see things your way.
Absolutely.
Right. Well,
because if that happens, it's going to come down to blades. And if it comes down to blades, Jesus, Jason, it's probably going to go badly.
Yeah.
You've got to consider something, okay? So, you know, the D20 or F20, if we're calling it that, what they do to sort of mitigate is the hit points. You can calculate based off of how many hit points does this character have versus how much does the party collectively have. Savage Worlds says with bennies, the players being wild cards have the opportunity to sort of balance it out through the introduction of chance.
Well, I'm going to throw this one out here too. I think that there's this kind of conceit that, well, bennies make it easy for you to always win, or they take the dramatic tension out of a scene.
That's not true.
It's not true at all. And I will tell you as a player that I have on more than one occasion, I'm going to do this. Do you have a skill in it? Nope. Okay, but you're taking a multi-action. Yep. So you're going to be rolling a D4 to -4. Yep. And I have 8 bennies sitting in front of me, and I fail. And then I sit there and look at the GM in a stare down contest where they go, well, what? Aren't you going to benny that? No. Why not? Because failure's interesting. I want to see what's going to fucking happen.
Right, yeah.
So I think there's this conceit that people use bennies to avoid failure, and, you know, newer players might. It's win or lose isn't really an issue to really kind of tie bennies down to the table and, you know, perform an execution.
I think one of the issues, though, is like the way it's almost perceived is that bennies are an infinite resource, but they're not. They run out, and it builds tensions the closer you get to them reaching 0.
And I'm going to argue kind of the opposite on this from what I see happening in the community. Is it doesn't matter how limited bennies are as a resource. Every other post I see in the Google Plus community is about, well, I don't have my players ever make notice rolls. I don't ever have my players make persuasion rolls. I don't let the rules get in my way. And so they're not making enough dice rolls throughout the night. If I have 3 bennies in front of me at the start of the play, I earn 3 during the night, and I only make 8 dice rolls, those bennies are amazing. I can do whatever the fuck I want, whenever the fuck I want, because I have so much of those versus how many dice rolls I'm being asked to make. If I have that same 6 bennies, but through the course of play, 30 times I have to put dice to the table because I had to make a run roll. I had to make that roll for persuasion to get past the guard. I had to make the roll for notice to spot the small clue. I had to make a roll for all those things that are in the rules that people don't like slowing their game down. If you don't use those rules, you're not asking the players for as many dice rolls. The Benny becomes way more powerful when there's fewer and fewer dice rolls to spend it on.
Once again, supply and demand, law of supply and demand, economy.
Yeah.
Right, so the big question is, why is this happening? Right? Because he's not the only one who says stuff like this. So why is this happening?
Honestly, Scott, I think that's a good point. Based off of what I'm seeing, a lot of people are coming over from other systems, and they don't want to leave that other system. You know, it's almost. I feel like, as an outsider looking, it looks like they want to nitpick. Well, this is a good mechanic here, and that's a good mechanic there, and this I like, and that I like, and everybody's just trying to combine into this universal type system that will never happen because it's just a mismatch.
Well,
I think a lot of it's not understanding how the game works.
It's a lot of it's not understanding how the game works, not understanding how an economy works in a game, particularly if they're coming from a background of games that don't have economies built into them, like D&D. I'm not banging on D&D, but D&D doesn't have a built-in economy. The closest thing it has is the hit point economy, where you have a pool of hit points, you spend them in a fight, and then you buy them back getting healed.
Right.
That's as close as it gets. But it doesn't have an economy. I think part of the reason that people have problems with the Benny economy is that what it does is it gives you a reroll.
Yeah. Right, because that's the biggest complaint, right?
In other games, a lot of other games that have economies, for example, the game that I'm writing has an economy built into it, but it doesn't give you a reroll. That's not what it does. What it does is it allows you to do certain things. There are certain things that are simply not available to you if you don't have reputation. Okay? And I think that's why people have a gripe with it, is because of what the economy does. Because they think it's a get-out-of-jail-free card, and it's not.
Yeah.
Right, because you still have to win the reroll, even when you reroll it. You still have to. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Carlin asks in chat if what's causing this is that amateur critic developer, that every GM who's going to house rule stuff sitting at the table saying, I could do this better than Clint and Shane, or I can do this better than Watsy with Death Ed, and trying to house rule the game to be better than it is.
Yeah.
I think we have forgotten that house rules were supposed to be about tailoring it for your specific group of players, instead of house rules are how you take a broken game and make it better. If you inherently look at Savage Worlds as a broken game, then it's not for you. There's a lot of games out there.
Right.
Just like I inherently look at D&D as a broken game, because for me, it loses everything when you start talking about attrition and class-based. Those two things, for me, just don't work. I'm not going to try to fix that out of D&D. I'm going to find another game that does what I need it to do better than that.
Right.
You got...
Go ahead.
Sorry. Well, I was going to say, Dave, I think you got a good point there. It's the fact that one of the things that draws me in, and I don't know if it draws anybody else in, but Benny's sort of adds this randomness to it. The fact that GM has Bennies based off of how many players they have, and each wild card they have also has 2 Bennies. So a GM doesn't have to lose if they're willing to spend, but they can get into that war of attrition. It's more random than sort of, well, this is what the hit points are going to cost you. It's less calculated.
Well, I think that's an interesting aspect to this. In Jamie's blog post that he put up, he never once talks about the fact the GM has bennies at their disposal so that the enemies never fail. He's talking about how the player characters never fail because they can just drop the benny and hit the I win button. Well, if that were true, isn't it just as true at least 4 to 5 times a night for the GM, plus however many wild card bennies the GM ends up drawing?
Well, here's what I get from the post. Here's what I get from the post too: is Jamie wants to play Savage Worlds with no bennies, and hey, dice fall where they lay. They lay where they fall. That's it.
Well, that's not totally true either, right? Because he's also a fan of fucking fudging.
Exactly. So, thank you.
That's the fucking bennies.
You beat me to the point there, Scott. That's about where I was about to go. And rolling behind the screen, so you don't have to worry about whether or not it's pass-fail.
But again, it's not just Jamie, right? I really love Jamie to death, and he's fun to fuck with. But there are people who are like that, right? You get this fucking fudging dice shit every cycle, right? It's coming back around again. When should we fudge dice? Never. What the fuck are you cheating for? Who cares? It's a fucking game. But what if I kill the character? Okay. They're dead. You make a quest. You do something. I don't know, Dungeon Master. Why don't you fucking tell the rest of the table what happens next?
Yeah. Well, player catches the case of the dead. As a GM, you can just absolutely in that moment go, and a beam of light comes down, and the doves circle, and you have a giz to go to the mountain and drop the cup into the fire, right? And so will be raised from the dead as the next deity of Middle Earth. Fuck it. Do it makes your game better.
Right.
But don't be afraid of the fucking dice rolls.
I gotta say, what it seems to me, it comes down to the issue of control. And I feel like when you have a lot of people coming over to Savage Worlds, they can't wrap their head around the idea of player agency and player control. They're just so used to the GM controlling absolutely everything in the encounter, and to have to take responsibility for living and dying as a character is too much for some people, and it is too much for some GMs.
That's a good point. If you've never seen Savage Worlds played at a con specifically, right? We are some wild motherfuckers, and if your table isn't full of energy, I don't know if you're capturing the spirit of the game, right? It comes down to it. This isn't a game about like, all right, the dungeon door opens, and you proceed 30 feet, and before you is a splitting hallway. What would you like to do next? That's not what Savage Worlds is about, right? Savage Worlds is all about fucking things up and kicking over fucking columns. And yeah, can you be super serial about it and, make it all boring and shit? You absolutely can. You can do that with fucking Fate and Powered by the Apocalypse games, but I wouldn't suggest it for any of those systems either.
Right.
Well, and I think here's another issue too. I think a lot of there's not a lot of help in the Savage Worlds core rule book or necessarily in the community about how to manage your benny spending as a player.
We talked about that, right?
Yeah, we have talked about that.
The book is fucking hot garbage when it comes to how it's written. I will never change my fucking stance on that. It definitely could be written better. And the book tells you how to control the benny economy. It's written in the fucking book. And that when we talked about the anti-stun lock versus stun lock, right, of Shaken, when they changed the rules, and Clint had said some fucking incorrect shit. He counterminded what was written in the book about how bennies work and how they function, how many there are. There's actually a limit that they suggest in the book. You know?
And I think this too, that I'm about to go hippity hop down this trail again too. I think that the change in the core rules to Shaken causes you to end up being able to divert a lot of bennies that you might otherwise spend on unshaking.
No, I think we're trying to get that raised, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, and people are, I think, well, I don't think I know. I've seen this in lots of games, and trying to get players out of the mode is they're still used like fucking hit points. Everyone still assumes that's their best use.
Mm-hmm.
Which is wrong.
I wish I had players sit down at the table who want to spend a benny to get the raise. As soon as they see that success, too many players revert back to D&D, revert back to their previous systems where success is all they need. They don't even think about, hey, that was easy to roll. Why don't I drop a Benny and go for the raise?
And that's on the right. That's on the GMs, right? Is that you need to also facilitate the excitement of the raise, and you can draw that out. Like the Eberron game, we've been running for like 8 months now, and now I've got players who are just like, all right, are you succeeded? And they're like, whoa, 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 no, I'm gonna stab that cunt right in the fucking face. No, this is fucking happening. And they'll toss those fucking bennies out, and they'll just let them flow like water because they want, just like you said, they want to really put a hurting on the bad guys.
Right. Well, and then you also get this too, where you get the player who refuses to let a roll go. It's an inconsequential roll. It's a useless. Oh, everybody give me a notice roll as you ride into town. It's not even worth a Benny to begin with.
Later, still failing.
Just to see the 4 dead bodies in the middle of town.
Yeah, there's 4 other people who rolled, and 3 of them got successes. What? Nope. No. Nope. Oh shit! Here comes another Benny, and another one, and another one, and they're sitting there with 1 Benny left to go. Aha! I nailed that notice roll.
You know what?
All they noticed is the guy on a cross that was crucified in the middle of goddamn town that they couldn't have missed anything.
You got to prove that. As I found out.
Or you see it all the time too, like a combat. Yeah, a player will just get in the mindset of, no, I have to have a raise on this first strike.
Use a setting where when you get fucking a 1 on the trait die, you don't get to fucking use a Benny. Bam, problem fucking solved.
Well, and I mean, there is things out there like
or just coach him up. Just coach him up and go, hey, you know what? Maybe you don't need to spend that Benny here. Go ahead and take it back. That's wasting your Benny. That's a waste. Don't bother with that shit.
But that comes to facilitating the game properly, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're calling for notice rolls because there's 4 dead bodies in the middle of town or a dude who's been crucified in the middle of town, you've already fucked up.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah, if it's something everybody could notice, you're calling for notice rolls. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
but this shit, like they're in the house alone. That's dark. Give me a notice roll. Ah, shit! I failed the notice roll.
I'm probably gonna Benny the shit out of that roll.
I'm gonna Benny another one. I'm gonna Benny another one. I'm gonna Benny another one. Dude, you're the negative. Yeah. You're the -2 because it's dark.
That is also a point where, as the GM, you've got to understand before you ever ask for that notice roll that they're going to do that, because you have set it up, because you've put them in a spooky house at night,
right?
You know, they're teenagers, and you know they're in the creepy house. I want to know whatever's going on. I want to know.
Right? Yeah.
Okay. The GM set that up.
Well, the GM could also go, okay, wait a minute there, Johnny. Hold your roll a second. Okay, so what happened? What do you think is going to happen if you fail this notice roll? Something's going to jump out and attack me. Okay, maybe that's fair. Don't you think you might want to save those bennies to soak some wounds and shit?
I can earn them bennies back, bitch. I got this. Or hindrances, sorry.
I mean, you're just throwing down 2 of your 3 bennies trying to notice a creature that's going to attack you. You might want to hold one of those bennies back. I don't know, for an incapacitation roll. Not to die. Just saying.
When the GM calls for a notice roll at -4, you should already have butt puckered enough to know the ambush is coming.
Right. Yeah.
Don't feed that by reducing that stack of hit points in front of you.
Right. Look at you motherfucker.
I had to do it, man. We're sitting here having an argument about how you have to save that last penny for incapacitation or for soaking. They're not goddamn hit points.
Okay, I'm going to cut this down to brass tacks. Okay, spend the bennies how you want there, player. I'm not going to tell you to do otherwise.
Why you bullshit? I don't give a fuck. I'm going to laugh at you.
But when you spend all of them on a notice roll to notice the big bad monster that's going to jump out at you, and you don't have any left to make that soak roll that you needed, or that incapacitation roll that you needed, or to succeed on that attack that would have prevented you from getting hurt in the first place, guess what? Sucks to be you.
Yeah, man. That ghoul crawls up inside. Yeah, that ghoul starts eating your asshole. I'm not talking about Thailand. You need them bennies.
Well, I mean, and I'll also say this too. It's one of my favorite things to do to a player. I mean, we want to talk about draining bennies off players. It's just a simple. Are you happy with that? After they roll,
that works a lot.
A simple Benny bait. Are you happy with that?
Yeah, but are you not? Is that not tension breaking?
Fuck you.
I got to bring it back to the blog post.
Okay, so let's talk about tension for a second, because he brings tension up that, you know, it just lets all the fucking air out of the moment when they drop that Benny and turn failure into success.
No, it does the opposite, because that moment where you drop that Benny and you're wondering what is going to happen, the tension is doubled down.
Yeah, at that point, you've had tension build up to a dice roll. The dice came out shitty. So you throw a Benny on the table and tension immediately ratchets higher than it was before. Why? Because the same shit's on the line, but now it costs you a Benny as well as whatever the failure cost is going to be if the dice rolls shit again.
You are invested. You have invested a limited supply in the success of that roll, and
Absolutely.
that adds to the tension.
And unfortunately, this is where I have to take a shot directly at Jamie.
Oh, shit.
The article, and it's the same issue he has with things like the give me the notice roll to spot the ninja, give me the notice roll to spot the bomb under the car. His idea of tension is that the player doesn't know the result. And now that the player has gotten that success, they know the result. They know they've succeeded. They got the thing. They unlocked the door. They blah, 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 whatever it is. He's so wrapped up in this idea of obfuscation and keep it away from the player, and it's mine to control and surprise them with, that he feels like when that failure doesn't happen, he didn't get to spring the surprise.
Yes.
So
Right. And the bottom line is he's not giving his players enough credit.
Right. Yeah.
We like Jamie. We do. It's just that we have a different style of
Fuck
looking
that guy.
at things.
No, fuck that guy.
I like
Fuck
Jamie.
that guy.
Jamie.
But Jamie is the iconic token of this issue, right? Because he's not alone. We see it all in the Google community and on Peg's forums and shit.
Right.
Well, he like a lot of is confusing. All right, gore is not what's scary in a horror movie.
No,
It's anticipation. You as an audience member know, oh, don't go downstairs in the dark, you dumb bitch. You're in high heels. What the fuck are you thinking? The tension is there because we're watching somebody doing one stupid thing after another, and we know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm just as invested in that setup in a horror movie of, you know, the boyfriend having to go downstairs and, you know, turn into a dark basement when I know the killer's down there, as I am to the jump scare that didn't set me up at all. I have the same reaction as an audience member and a participant. And I don't think that Jamie and people who are in his camp can comprehend that, oh, wait, it doesn't need to be this big build-up moment. It's like he thinks he's writing a novel or writing a screenplay or writing and filling in all that information that's going to lead up to this big aha. And his players are just going to go, dude, mind blown. Dude, we're not worthy. We're not worthy.
And to be fair to Jamie, I do just want to point out, his group of players want that. They are so dyed in the wool and stuck in the way they played the game, quite honestly, back in the 80s and 90s, that they're still wanting to play that game now. And that's why those things are so core to the way he's running the game, is that group of players he's playing with, who I've had conversations with when I was over on their podcast after the fact, where they absolutely just know that's what we want, that's what we enjoy. Yeah. And if that's what's getting his group going, then he's not wrong to do it. And I'm seeing some people who took what I was saying earlier about Jamie's style as antagonistic. No, he knows the bigger surprise of the two things that could happen. When dice are going to roll, the success thing is the thing everyone at the table kind of already understands. Success, you hit the guy, you hit the goblin. Success, you picked the lock. Failure, you don't know what the GM's going to do. You don't know what the narrative behind that wall is. So it's a bigger surprise. That's more what I was talking about earlier with that. But I think there is an aspect to this, absolutely, where we have to take into consideration this idea that I've got control of this thing, and therefore this thing that I know is more important than this thing the players know, the success side of it. If that win-lose aspect of it,
Yes.
we as GMs see it in reverse because we know the result on a fail. We've got this plan, and we know the big bad hiding behind the corner of the curtain that we're just waiting to pull away, whether it's the snapped lockpick, whether it's the weapon flying across the room, whether it's the owl beast dropping out of the rafters on top of your character, or the jump scare from under the stairs. Doesn't matter. Those are all the same thing. They're the beast behind the curtain that as a GM, we know and we're hoping to unleash on the players for their fun. We need to find ways to unleash those things without making it dependent on those dice rolls. Build up to and then unleash the thing at a moment, and then put a dice roll after it for the response.
Right. Well, also too, bennies give the players some leverage in how the story goes. And if you're talking about a cooperative storytelling session, and that's what you're trying to accomplish, then of course the players should have bennies. They should be able to make a decision. You know what? I've got 5 bennies. I bet at least one of these means that we get across this cavern. So guess what? GM has this insurmountable odd I cannot get across. I'm likely going to fail on a roll. Not tonight, bitch. Tonight we're going over that cavern because I want that to happen in the story. So having bennies for the player gives them a little bit, I wouldn't say narrative control, but gives them more leverage on having an impact on the narrative that I think a lot of GMs just are not used to as far as that comfortability scale. Now, I will say this too. I'm not above rewarding characters with bennies to fail.
Absolutely.
You know what? I will give you a benny if you don't reroll that. If you stick with that failure, I will give you a benny. So the bennies have this amazing dog treat. Whatever behavior you're looking for at your table, you have them. It's called a goddamn benny. If you want characters to sort of embrace failure, you want your players to embrace failure, you can start offering them bennies for not rerolling.
Right.
But what about games and settings where the GM actually picks up some of those bennies? Russ D says some GMs will also keep the bennies spent by the players to use back against them. To me, it's more about managing resources like ammo. And I think that's a reference to Deadlands Reloaded, where if you spend the red,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do the same thing in Eberron because the Eberron bennies are based on the Deadlands, right? And so the players know they draw randomly, right? You can't look in the fucking bag or the pot because you don't know what color you're getting out of the 3 colors. And when they pull them, they pull that the red one is normal, a yellow one means they don't give it to me and they get some super benefits out of it. But that fucking blue one, they know, and they sit there and look at it, and like it's either a normal basic bitch-ass benny, or they can choose to add that extra D6 to the roll. God damn, I've got fucking attacked. And, or, you know, but they know it's going to come to me. And you can see in their faces, I'm like, hey, how much do you really fucking need that roll? And they're just like, go eat a dick.
Well, and here's the things, too. Like, so we've talked about the Ron Blessing maneuver before. And meaning that, hey, I don't personally use bennies for my wild cards to soak because I find it anticlimactic. That's great. If we're playing a standard pulp game, we're playing a standard game. We're playing a gritty zombie apocalypse. Oh no, I'm using those bennies to soak for my wild cards in a gritty, hardcore game. So gauge it.
Well, I was going to say, that goes back to the conversations we've had about tension and how to keep it at the table and when should the GM spend bennies to soak and things like that. You know, when are you literally taking the air out by undoing the big, massive, exciting thing? And when are you letting the big bad die so quickly and easily that it takes all the tension out of the fight because, I guess it wasn't that threatening to fight a dragon. So I think there's an aspect of that has to be done, but we've talked about that pretty extensively. And I think, again, this speaks to something that Jamie's not understanding about the way Savage Worlds plays, again, because of the lens he's playing through and the players he has, and that colors that article to me. Because, I mean, he makes a big deal about the tension argument, and quite honestly, most of us are looking at the tension argument as very, very tertiary here. You know, it's things about the economy and not asking the players for enough dice rolls, or not, you know, giving out too many bennies, things like that we see as the flaw, not this idea that, oh no, so I have to wait 30 more seconds while you roll another die to find out what happened in the scene. My tension is gone.
Misdirected Mark just did a whole episode a few casts ago. I'm so grateful that they did it, about how bullshit immersion is. It was really good.
Yeah, people talk about immersion, and I've talked about immersion. There was a day when immersion was the holy grail of role playing.
Right.
You know, getting that immersion. I learned along the way that first off, immersion is elusive at best. It's never constant, and not necessarily the all that. You know, there's also, you're playing a fucking game. Right. There is that aspect of it, and if we're going to take the you're playing a game aspect out of it in favor of immersion, then quit saying you're playing a role playing game and go do your improv exercise.
Yeah, pass the stick.
The elephant in the room on the immersion argument is that you have to separate your mind. You have to have 2 point of views. Your character sees one thing, and you as the player, aka the audience, sees the other.
Yeah, as soon as I ask you for a fucking dice roll, you're no longer in immersion. You're
right.
done.
Right.
Yeah.
You're
there's dice at the table, and you have to decide whether or not to use that Benny.
Right, yeah.
There's no way to wrap any kind of immersion around the meta game decision. Do I spend the Benny or not?
No, there's absolutely not.
All right. I'm going to throw this out here. Okay, so here's how I view immersion. All right. I could come up with a sweet boss Halloween costume, go out, have everybody automatically recognize it, go, oh, awesome. You're that. Oh, yeah. At no point in the night do I forget who I am or that I'm wearing a goddamn costume. I am aware of that shit all the fucking time.
I see what you're saying.
So this idea, the very fact that I'm sitting across the table from Dave and my other buddies, looking at him in the face while they eat Cheetos and drink Mountain Dew, guess what? Immersion not possible.
Look, for 3 sessions, I believed I was an Indian foreign exchange student.
Now, there's a certain amount of, oh, okay, I was really into my character tonight. I had a lot of fun role-playing my character tonight. There's that. Yes, you had fun. That's part of the game. But this whole immersion is the holy grail of, oh, lift it all up. And people have to forget who they are and get swept away into this fantasy bullshit.
I literally cried when we discovered the princess. Oh, the fuck away from my table. No, you didn't. You lying, blonde posting piece of shit.
Yeah, it's that bullshit. And then you know, there's so many GMs too that do the, well, in the pursuit of immersion, all sins are forgiven. I can completely fuck my players over. I can fudge dice. I can withhold important information that they need as players to make decisions for their character. I can do all this shit under the guise of, I'm trying to create an immersive setting.
Absolutely.
You know what? I can only speak for myself here, but I would much rather know to be fact that we're playing the game on the same terms and by the same rules.
Yeah.
And know what's going on in the game than have some great mystery about things and feel like the game is being played by different rules, depending on which side of the screen you're sitting on.
Right. Yeah. Well, and in the example we gave with the mob game that we were talking about with Jamie, not to revisit that, but goddamn it, here we're going to go on a quick tangent. You cannot tell me that you're not going to get tension and buy-in at the table when in a game that you're playing the mob and you're this anti-mob guy and a hot blonde spent the night with you the night before and is suddenly gone the next morning, and you as a GM goes, you know what? That never happens to you. And then, okay, so we do next. Well, I'm going to, drive across town. How are you going to get there? Well, I'm going to do my car in the parking lot and drive across town. Great. As you approach the car, stop. You need to give me a notice roll, and you need to succeed with a raise.
Right.
Because here's what's going to happen. She distracted you while they wired your car with explosives. And the second you turn that ignition, boom.
But now
that shit's already going to happen.
Car.
Yeah, that shit's going to happen.
Yeah.
The difference is whether or not you get a raise on this notice roll to see that before it happens. Go. You cannot tell me that you're not going to have a sense of, oh shit, white knuckling, buy-in at a player and a character level.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and I think it's important that when you're in that moment that you say, now you're gonna make a dice roll to see if you notice this thing, but if you do not, you already stated what your action was, and you're going to do that.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Because why wouldn't you? You don't suspect anything.
Right. Yeah.
Right. This is a notice roll to see if you get out of that.
Right. Yeah. And how important is it to you to get out of the situation or to avoid it?
And I guarantee you, their pulse rate's going to go up, and I guarantee you, their eyes are going to dilate. Because they're going to be like, oh, shit.
And I guarantee you the other players, well, can I make a cooperative? No, you're not fucking there. Shut up.
Yes, you're not there.
Right.
Bag of dick.
Well, could we do this? Well, wait a minute. What if I notice it's there? Can I disarm it? Well, we'll see. We'll see. Maybe that's a dramatic task, but we'll see. Right now, you're making a notice roll to not go kaboom.
Right.
Now, tell me that you don't want bennies.
Right.
In your game when you're making that decision.
Well, look, first off, I don't need them because I'm going to make that roll for you behind my screen.
Right.
And then I'm not going to tell you that you should see the bomb.
Right.
I haven't used a GM screen in probably fucking 10 years.
I don't use them.
Yeah,
I mean,
forever.
Well, I take that back. I use it when I'm running D&D, not to hide my dice rolls, because I put my rolling tray in front of my GM screen. But I do it because it gives me a place to put stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, like I'll still lay it flat and like, I need to know what these fucking minutiae rules are that I'm not tracking on.
Well, let me throw another one out there too. A way for a GM to creatively use his bennies to build tension at the table. You want to talk about this? Oh, well, there's no tension at the table. We've hit the high win button. No, as a GM, if you walk up and go, my big bad walks up and says, I'm going to pound you so hard, your grandkids are going to feel it. And then I'm going to make an intimidation roll, and I get like a 12, and I go, nah, it's not high enough.
Right.
And I drop a Benny to get a 20 and go, yeah, you know what? I think I can do a little bit better than that. Yeah. Drop another Benny and get like a 25 to watch the player go, oh, shit.
Right. Yeah. My life.
All right. Now, beat a 25.
Yeah.
Plus, if not, I get a +2. And if I get a raise over your ass, you're also shaken. Go ahead, because he's going to beat you senseless.
To that point, I just want to add, where this can absolutely backfire is if you're a horrible GM and the player beats the 25. Because as soon as the player rolls something better than that 25, you need to come up with some narrative that explains why the player's character wasn't impressed by the threat. If you just say, well, fuck it, I guess you weren't impressed, and move on, you're a horrible GM. And two, you've just let all the tension out of that moment that Benny should have bought.
Right.
Yeah. Are we going to answer Senor Cartajo?
Sure. Question? I'll read it off. Do you guys
No, bitch. Read the name.
No, are you want me to
read the name? This shit.
All right, here we go.
I can't say Lewis correctly, so.
All right, you ready? Here we go. Yeah. Hoye Cartaco. Is how that's pronounced, not how I pronounce it.
Oh, no, that's
how it's pronounced.
Or not. I'm still trying to decide.
Do you guys make your players describe what happens when they use a Benny? Abso-fucking-lutely. Yep. Give them some narrative control. Abso-fucking-lutely. Carlin Kendrick. So you're saying Jared wouldn't be immersed wearing a Harley Quinn outfit? You know, with the short shorts and the pudding choker. Oh my god.
You know you would.
Immersed. I'm going to say immersed. I would say disgusted.
We've ventured into making it a horror game right there.
Okay, when they spend Benny, you got to remember something Dave said earlier, is when they spend a Benny, we haven't narrated how this played out yet because we haven't finished with the dice rolls.
Right.
And until we're done with the dice rolls, we don't know what the narrative is.
Well,
So,
I'll say it with the.
Okay, put some dice down. Okay, right. You succeeded. You got a raise on your reroll. Blah 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 blah. Now what happened? Now you tell me what happened.
Right. Well, I'll enforce it on a soak, especially.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you just took 5 wounds. Oh, you just dropped a bending and soaked them all. Tell me how you're not injured.
Yeah.
Right.
I'll do the same. Absolutely. I'll do the same thing. And I'll even do, like, if you spend the Benny and they do a really awesome roll, they will get the Benny back at the end of that because it's like, hey, congratulations on being fucking incredible, right? I don't really care that the Benny has to change hands like that, and that shakes a lot of players to their fucking core of who they are, because if they haven't played with me or people like me who do that to them, who say, all right, yeah, that's all right, your arrow flies true, and you're gonna fell the fucking orc. What does that look like when you do it? And you can just see people just sit back like, oh shit, I don't know what to do next. Mostly D&D players, because you know.
But I made the roll. I made
the roll. Can we just move on? They're like, can you just give us something? You're not gonna be a dick about it and be like, no, what do you think happens? I shoot him in the throat. Okay, cool.
Well, and I think there's an interesting aspect of, obviously we've talked about before, anytime you hand the player character narrative control, that you're fucking crapshoot. You might get a blank stare, and you might also get some fucking story destroying hot mess of a narrative where their character has some superpower they never had before, or a unicorn jumps in the way. You can absolutely open the door to 2 very horrible things, and you have to be willing to, at that point, to take back the reins and go, no, that was good, but here's what actually happened.
I never told you guys, I guess. Yeah, I haven't said this on air. So I ran a 5th edition game. I was testing out a new setting, and the players were very much dyed-in-the-wool F20 players, not used to having a GM actually ask them questions and shit and let them have some control. And I shit you not, this dude, all he said was like, all right, you take down the fucking last standing opponent. What does that look like? Because you're the awesome one. You're this big motherfucker. What does it look like? And I shit you not. It was, so I take my halberd and I raise it up. So I take my halberd and I raise it up, and then I swing at him. I raise it up and I swing at him, and then I turn and I take my halberd and I swing at him. I was just like, bro, I'm gonna let this go because you are so cute in your innocence of ignorance.
We do have a question here.
You got to encourage it because you got to get them out of their fucking nest.
Yeah, you do. You know? Who's gonna read Jason Chapman?
That's the one I was gonna.
Well, hold on, Mel Primus is my fucking hero of the night.
So
Jesus.
So Jason Chapman asks, he has one player that just wants to kill shit. Any suggestions to try to get him to think more from a role-playing perspective, mixed with the combat elements within the session? And it's a question for everyone on the panel. So I'm just going to start off with don't. Yeah. Dude, if that's what your player gets from the game,
right,
don't try to force that to change. Find a way as a GM to entertain them differently than the way you're entertaining the rest of your players.
So I will say, yeah, I agree, right? You're not going to change how someone games. You may adjust dials a little bit. I would give him fucking villains that he fucking hates. And when he gets to fight them, don't take it away, right? Use some crazy shit like fanatics maybe, but let him stomp the monkey dog shit out of these villains that you have antagonized his character over. And that you will begin to see the roleplay eke out of him because he's going to want to talk shit. He's going to want to fuck them up and do terrible shit to them. He's going to fucking try to cut their fucking legs off rather than just stab them in the face.
I would agree. I would say give him more of the same within storylines. So if he's constantly just, his answer to everything is kill it, then fine. His answer to everything is kill it. there's going to be some angry people.
Yeah, ramifications, bitch.
So
Fact.
give him the wanted minor hindrance, and
Right.
a whole town's after him because they killed his auntie.
You're an adventurer. You gotta realize that this is the old West, right? D&D is not medieval Europe. Any fantasy setting and shit. It's not medieval fucking Europe. It's the old West in America. That's all it is. Because we can go in this on another fucking show. So you don't walk around with your shtick being, oh, that motherfucker murders everybody. Oh, okay. You goddamn better bet your enemies are gonna be aware that you have no fucking mercy, and they're gonna come at you.
I don't give that player the wanted hindrance. I give them the enemy hindrance. And then I create a Billy badass NPC who's all about killing shit, who's been sent after him. Whether it's an assassin hired to kill him or whatnot. So give him exactly what he's looking for, but you make it a character that could humiliate him in a fight. Because then you just bought that character he's going to hate. That recurring nemesis.
So what Dave is saying, to put it in a modern movie analogy, is your character is Rocky Balboa introduces Mr. T.
Clubber Lang, thank you very much, motherfucker.
If you really want to play, bringing it back to topic, and you really want to just dig it in, give them luck, great luck, and Elan.
Right.
So that when that player that is so dead set, I will kill this guy, and then you vigor roll it up, and he gets that +2 to save, hey, he just gets out of there.
I like the way you think.
Man, just make, and don't make him Billy Badass.
Nope.
Make him just a complete moron that is lucky.
Yep.
Now, I'll say this too, as far as just some helpful advice too. Don't make it easy for him to kill people. Make him work for it. Don't just don't just have him stand there like talking heads and wait for him to show up with a sword. And
have your enemies surrender during combat.
Right.
And have the character in the party who took heroic standing there when Mr. Kill-A-Lot walks over and executes the prisoners.
Right.
Yeah.
Create some inter-party conflict with it as well. In other words, it's a bar rag. Wring all the shit you can out of that for the story. Have them, oh, we know about you. Turn your weapons over.
Right? Yeah.
Okay.
Everyone come in except for Fuckface over here.
That's right. Yeah, Fuckface is staying out there because we know he murders people. He's a goddamn murder hobo. He'll come into town. He'll slay anybody who looks at him the wrong way. Fuck that guy. Fuck that guy. He's outside.
The fucking goat raper gets to come inside. You don't.
Right.
At the very least, he's gentle with the goats.
Whatever, man. Does anyone want to tackle those? Hey, Muslim, my man. Welcome from fucking Korea. Where he is.
Right.
What's the next one?
Description doesn't from Roos. Doesn't giving that description also help immersion when it challenges them to go deeper into the character? Putting
talking about the car bomb thing where you're telling the guy this is what rides on that dice roll. Let them get deep into the mind of, oh shit, my character's about to die.
Right, I'm about to fucked.
Well, I don't know if it's immersion. I think it's more plot development than anything else, because now the player as well as the character now. Oh shit, I've made some noise. Some people want me dead. I must be on the right track with what I'm doing because people want me dead. I wonder who wants me dead. I wonder which crime family wants me dead and took a hit out on me.
Right.
Let me start doing some streetwise and find out who the car bomb guy is that the bomb uses, or blah blah blah. It opens up story threads.
I'm going to go a little off script on this one. I'm going to say that in my games, I give the player the option. I'm like, do you want to describe what happens, or would you rather I describe it? And we've talked about the idea of player agency, and some people are just really not comfortable. But if you give them the choice, if you make them comfortable and say, you don't have to, you're not on the spot, but here's your chance to shine, then you can draw them in and they can get more invested and they can really enjoy that game. But you have to give them the option.
Well, bringing it back to bennies, bringing it back to bennies, when the character rolls a raise and then describes, just launches into a lurid description.
Yeah.
Give them a fucking benny because you didn't have to ask for it. And then it will become this thing of, well, hey, every time that guy narrates stuff, he gets a, hey, I want a benny. Hold on a second.
I want to narrate shit too.
I want to narrate shit too.
16 titties falls out.
So people, so we're still talking about immersion. All right. People get immersed in the play of the game, the rolling of the dice, the laughter, the laughing at the jokes, and fail to note the passage of time, or they check out and have to be called back to attention.
Absolutely. Right. You're either into the game, right? You're there, you're wanting to hang out, or your fuck ass is playing fucking Candy Crush Saga, and you don't give two shits about the other people at the table. It's sort of borders on disrespectful because it's like, hey man, the fuck you doing at this table if you really aren't going to fucking be here to interact and listen and pay attention?
Well, we've talked about how that's a failure by the GM not to moderate the session, but I think it's also a failure by the GM not to keep that player's attention. And this is where we talk about other forms of immersion. What Jamie and his friends all bang on about is the whole character immersion. I am like fucking character. Well, immersion can also just mean you're rocking it in the groove, having a good time playing the game, and you're the one who thinks of adding a law to your character so that you can get the +2 on your fucking Benny rolls. You're the one who thinks of taking that really easy to roleplay hindrance like a stutter so that you can get more bennies in front of you to have to get that +2 and whatnot. But I think there's an aspect to this that also goes into, as a GM, if you've got that player that's checking out and picking up their phone, you have failed to entertain them. You've failed to give them something to be immersed in the game, and that is something that you should be addressing as a GM. Either saying, hey, that's not acceptable because it's disrespectful to the other 4 or 5 people sitting here, or just finding a better way to entertain that player along with everyone else.
So what you're saying is, if you have a group, you're in a Deadlands group, and they're all in a bar, and the one guy who's the gambler and the huckster, that's his stage, that's his forum, that's where you expect that player to really step up and kind of role play. But he's got his face buried in his phone, and he isn't paying attention because there's not a combat going on. That's when you just narrate, oh, a fist comes flying out of nowhere and hits you square in the nose. And then somebody goes, I don't like the looks of you, boy. And standing over you. Now have I got your attention?
I think there's an aspect to it that's gonna, you catch them with their character is surprised by something in game. But I think there's also just the aspect, why is that player then playing the gambler huckster if they're not gonna be on fire every time their character sets foot in a bar where poker's being played and booze is being drank?
Because I always play mages. No matter what genre I'm in, I find a way of playing mages. I have a player like that. And he's like that. He tells me straight up. And, I finally got it out of him, too, because he audacious, right? Because, we're playing Eberron, and there's nothing bad about magic in Eberron. It's fucking everywhere. And I'm like, you should be audacious and pompous. You're a fucking wizard, right? And every character we've played and every setting he's played and uses magic, he tries to internalize it, hide it, disguise it, and not be seen. And I was like, we were sitting around, and I was like, look, I got to ask you a question. What the fuck happened to you? Right? That this is your default. And then he told me, he's like, he had a really bad GM who basically created a fucking inter-party conflict and had the other 2 characters on the GM side wanting to murder his character and shit. And it's like, fucking ruined a player. Ruined a player.
So how do I get one of your therapy session games, Scott? That would be awesome.
You just, I guess, can fucking Skype you in, I guess. Put little, we could do this, Google Hangout. I'm used to talking to human beings, that's daily, right? That's just my fucking job. So, and motivating 110 people to do shit that's against your best interest in life.
Right.
Kind of get used to fucking being able to do this shit.
I think that's really why we play, is the whole getting to that point where you can do this shit. And some people just lose sight of it. I mean, this is a role play scenario. You get to be somebody different for a while.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, but remember that when people make characters, they always make in their mind a perfected image of themselves and how they want to see themselves.
I absolutely believe that, unless you've deliberately sat there and been like, it sounds really neat. I'm gonna fuck around this time a little bit, right? And I think you're right, dude. I think very rarely that happens.
That's an evolution of a player to reach that point.
I think you're right. I think 9 times out of 10. Yeah.
Yeah, or you'll see it like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna really stretch my role play wings. I'm gonna play something different than the face man,
right.
The beautiful, gorgeous, whatever, femme fatale, face woman, whatever. I'm gonna stretch it out. I'm gonna play a little bit more rough and tumble tomboy.
Right.
And you build that character, and then the second you step onto the role play game stage, you're playing the face man. You're persuading everybody again. You just
that's my problem. I
doesn't matter
was
anymore.
Characters because I like to talk and shit, and it's like, so I challenged myself. I tried to play 5th edition once, and it didn't work out because they sucked. And I wanted to play a fighter, just a straight fucking stick and shield, whoop your ass fighter. And I was so excited about this opportunity, and it was like, everyone else is fucking boring at this table, and we're not going to get anywhere role playing.
So Russ adds in, and I think this is poignant to what we're talking about right now, that he's had a player complain that everybody was playing too smart, and the player is therefore getting bored. Some folks only care about their own idea of entertainment, can't please them all. Yeah. And while I definitely can understand that, I think that's the moment where what we're talking about right now matters the most. That's your time as the GM to step up and throw the gauntlet down and take their character sheets, fucking shuffle them in a pile, and deal them back out.
Look at you.
Make them play off book. Make them play something that they didn't create, that's not their style of character, and make them face being in another pair of shoes, doing something that's uncomfortable. And now that playing smart is going to be taken up by, what would this character do in this situation?
I'm going to go ahead and add, I was in that game, and we were playing smart because it was a survival horror game. Underline survival. You do not understand what a survival horror game it is. It means the first one you come across can kill you.
So who was the player who was complaining since you were in the game?
It was a friend. Part of our
Someone
group.
I'm not willing to throw under the bus, right, Dustin?
Yeah. I feel it's a major faux pas to call names, but I'm gonna go ahead and tell you.
No, don't say it. Don't say it. The part of CNN will be played by Scott tonight.
He just
you guys wanted to shoot some zombies, right? That was it. Like, why are we doing all the shit?
You wanted an adventure game. Jared, do you remember how you were talking about Dead End, and you had those two groups, and you had that one group that knew what they were doing? They knew that if they made a mistake, they would die. And then you had Action Jackson crew, where they're kicking people out of helicopters.
Right, who didn't care because, well, what happens if I die? I'll just make a new character.
And that's what happened.
Yeah.
Sometimes people get into games and they think they're playing an adventure game and they don't know they're playing a survival game. Like Rooster ran a great game. It was a zombie game, and most of the game was about not dying of thirst, not dying of hunger, not dying of disease, and fortifying your location. It was a good game, and it was a strategic game. But if you're sitting there and you're wanting to do like kung fu and kick a zombie's head off of one zombie and then hit the other zombie behind it,
awesome.
You're playing the wrong game.
Oh, well, that's when you let him go ahead and do that.
Right.
That's okay. So little side story here, in case I haven't told it before. I'm pretty sure I have. Basically got an impacted ass full of players who trust people they shouldn't in a zombie apocalypse and give attitude to people who could actually help them in a zombie apocalypse. Multiple scenes and opportunities.
Jesus Christ.
So they finally rescued these survivors on top of a gas station rooftop who are all out of ammo and surrounded by zombies. They just pull their RV up, let them on in. Hey, fellas, happy, joy. We're all survivors. Yay.
You seem like a trustworthy source. Like to join
exactly. And then I ask, okay, so what are you guys doing for the night? It's going to be late. Is anybody doing anything? They'll go, nope. Nobody says I'm taking a watch. Nobody says shit. I'm like, okay, well, good time. This is where we'll call it for tonight.
Yeah.
Open up the next session with, okay, the world is all black. You awaken to searing sunlight that burns your eyes, your ears, your head is ringing, your body, you can feel the aches everywhere, and you open up your eyes, and you're hogtied on the side of the road in your skivvies, and you've each got 2 wounds. And the RV is gone. So like, well, what? No, the RV's gone, and you've been tied up and everything. But well, hold on, no. We took watch. Nobody said you were taking watch. Well, don't we get in? Nobody said shit. Nobody said shit when I asked you 3 times. Maybe you shouldn't want to trust complete strangers.
That chat is commenting on being on the bingo card because you told it so many times. Let me tell the opposite story. The other group faced with basically the same situation. The other group that is playing through this zombie apocalypse where you've got to be smart to survive runs into a whole nother group fortified in a position with a pregnant woman. That group is having side conversations from character to character. In-character conversations. Do you think she's going to give birth to a zombie? What if the kid's already infected? What if she's not actually pregnant? Maybe she's just fat and they're going to take our water. Like, that's the level of, absolute paranoia that other group was suffering. And instead of it being seen as playing too smart, that was role-playing a character in a perilous situation where just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not out to get you.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, and you're right. You can't please everybody all the time. So at a certain point, you just go, knock it off. We're not doing that. That's not what we're doing. Did you admit? Did you not get the memo?
Yeah, give them a chance to be like, hey, this may not be the thing for you, right?
Yeah. Well, you know what? When we do some high kicking action adventure thing, we'll bring you back in.
Yeah.
Yeah. No harm, no foul.
Yeah, it's been fun. Now fucking hit the brakes. So, Benny Gate and other chicanery. Any other chicanery we want to talk about real quick?
No.
Yeah, let's cut this one off at the nub. There's a lot of new fucking players in the community asking questions. Stop, you don't know their assholes. Jesus fucking Christ! Even Clint is starting posts with, "I hope the community doesn't go into histrionics." Because the community is becoming a little reactionary to all these new players asking what are essentially go read the fucking manual questions.
Yeah.
So it's in the book. Take the time to read it, but also when someone asks a question, just tell them where to find it. Don't be a dick.
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw one more out there. What about steering away as your bad guy from not using combat as a resolution as a GM?
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
How do you do that with a combative group? Let's say you've got a group of players who are used to using combat to resolve
Put them
every
in a
situation.
where combat is obviously not the answer.
Or put them in a situation where combat is the answer for the bad guy. I mean, if you're gonna do this, let them screw the pooch. Let them kill everybody in sight, and then they become the bad guys.
Well, there's that, and that's not a bad.
No, I'm not talking burger hobo. I'm not talking reactionary GM. Oh, my players are fucking killing everything in sight. God damn it! I'm just saying you have a group that's in a rut. They're used to, okay, well, when we say even things, even when we're role playing a conversation, we're really just taunting the asshole GM and his NPCs to start a fight to resolve this. You're going to give us a room tonight.
Run a session where there is no big bad that's a person. The big bad is a fucking tsunami that's going to hit the town in 10 minutes.
Right.
And Tonight's session is how the fuck do you escape or survive the tsunami? There will be no combat in that session because no one's fucking fighting you unless you decide to walk up to a guy with a boat and start a punch fest to try to take his boat. In which case, when the tsunami gets there, it just fucking capsizes the boat and drowns your ass anyway.
I swing my sword at the tsunami.
I mean, there's an absolute full stop way. If you've got a group that's that stuck in that rut, fucking turn 90 degrees and take them down a path where it's just not even an option. You can't fight a volcano that's about to explode. You can't fight an earthquake that just dropped a building on you and now you have to sift your way out of the rubble. You can't fight those things. Make them use those other skills. Make them see the joy in a scenario where combat never comes up once.
Yeah, if they're taunting someone like NPCs and shit, right, then turn that into a social conflict. Right? They have to role play. They're still going to be antagonistic pricks, but now you've turned it on to something completely different for them. And they still get that feeling of like, we got one over on you. Fuck you. There's a lot of ways you can go about this. Or you could just play the way your players really want to play. Or find new players.
And that's true too. Turn into the teeth of it, and they want fucking the Murder Hobo show where they're gonna combat. Pull out a freaking D&D adventure module and run it with Savage Worlds. There's way more combat there than they're ever gonna need in a Savage Worlds game.
Well, let me ask this: what about outsmarting your combat players? Would it to be more enjoyable for them?
Depends on who you're playing with.
Yeah.
Well, I'm saying like let's say you got a group that always just does and we've all seen these Savage Worlds party. I'm the range guy. I'm gonna stay just in short range and I'm the magician guy. I'm just gonna cast smite and make everything damage and give myself armor, and then the guy that's running in toe to toe to hack and slash everything in sight. And that's their formula. That's their MO. That's how they play every session.
Use the rule against them.
I was going to say, the problem I have with this is you're describing the least common denominator, dumb murder hobo who's going to stand at optimal range and fire off their spells and their arrows or run in with their sword and hack the guy standing literally toe-to-toe. All I need to defeat that character is sweep, fleet-footed, multi-actions, quick draw.
Actually, no, all those
just maneuvers.
I can use any combat maneuver or any edge and defeat that because you're talking about the dumb D&D player who just walks their character up and does X.
You know what? Why doesn't that character find out? Why doesn't the big bad or the opposition just seed where he's going to be? Tell a few people, oh, hey, I saw him heading up to like this shack up on the mountain. And when they go through that area, it's nothing but traps. Agility rolls, -2.
Now here's kind of where I was going, hippity hopping down this bunny lane. So they go in against the mooks, and the mooks start using tactics. They don't just line up. Your NPCs don't just line up for the slaughter.
Okay.
They use push. They use tricks.
My problem with this idea is this presupposes that anyone watching this show after years of us banging this drum is still not fucking using tactics.
Well,
it's not the viewers.
You're not. It's your failure as a GM. But I mean, let's be fucking honest. We have beat the use the stuff in the combat guide against them, and they might someday figure out how to use it. Use the edges. You know, we've talked about that stuff. I think rehashing this conversation doesn't add anything to it. If you want to beat the murder hobo who's actually using tactics, this is where you as a GM better learn about actual combat tactics for a minute if you want to be, able to have an enemy come from the flank. Why? Because that's real tactics. and that's going to matter when you've got players who are using real tactics against you.
I'm going to start posting links to all the old shows that answer the fucking questions, right? There's no commentary needed to be like, watch this.
True. All right.
You people anyway, so you grow your base, Jared.
Yeah, I need to grow the base, right?
Your branding.
Well, it's all about the base. The base.
It's all about the base. More bounce in the motherfucking house.
All right. So before we wrap this up, I don't think we have any more comments in the peanut gallery. Just took a look.
They're all gone now.
So, Scott, you want to take a moment to talk about your latest foray into Savage Worlds?
Yeah, so how I defeated Pegging to their own game.
Vis-a-vis a one adventure.
That is true. Yeah, that is true. So Ashen Thorns was released. Just Insert Imagination was really cool. They helped out a lot. They were very willing to take the project on. I let them peep into some of the shit I've been working on. They chose that one. Really fun. It's post-apocalyptic, but it's post-apocalyptic if satanic witchcraft in the modern age was real and wins. And nature runs wild. There's all kinds of scary monsters, and magic has consequences. It's set in Baltimore, and it's pretty dark. It's not as dark as I wanted it to be because apparently there are rules at Peg Inc. about children. So that had to be extracted out of the fucking the terrifying portions of it, which is good. But yeah, it's totally pay what you want. Check it out, please. I do ask that. I don't really care if you pay for it or not, which sounds weird, but I mean, it's really, I'd rather get it out there and let people see it. If you do pay for it, thank you. If you do check it out, what we do ask is just leave a rating. This is sort of also a litmus test for they're in this as a setting. So that's a straight honesty. And cool. Yeah, awesome. You'll be seeing more. I've got another one I'm working on, also set in Baltimore, recently destroyed. It's just a personal vendetta I have against the state.
Awesome. And on that note, we'll wrap it up. This is Jared Savage Daddy Gunning for Scott, Jib, Dustin, and Dave saying keep rolling and stay savage.